Hello everyone, welcome to the channel, I'm Roy. Today we're gonna go through all the off-road specs of the GWM Tank 500. This whole video is divided into several chapters, so if you want to check out some part quickly, jump to the timestamp label on the screen or click the YouTube chapters directly. First up, chassis. Independent front suspension IFS or AA arm. Stamped steel fully boxed lower control arms, cast iron spindle, super rugged. And the upper control arm is made of forged aluminum. The coilover is mounted nearly the middle of the lower control arm, resulting in a motion ratio of probably around 55%. And the sway bar is mounted directly to the spindle, so the motion ratio is 1:1. It's a really thick sway bar to reduce body roll. The inner joint of the CV axle is a tripod type, and the outer one is Sherpa. I would like to see the inner one is double offset for larger CV angle. There are steering bump stops on both sides of the spindles, only one on each side. This is to limit the steering angle during extreme compression and full droop to protect the CV joint. And the steering is an electronic power steering of double pin type. The motor is mounted right there, so carefully protect your dust cover. If it's broken and let water get in, you may lose power steer. Towards the rear, there's a bump stop extending out from the frame rail. There's also reinforcements on the lower control arm where it lines up with the bump stop to handle big impacts. Set up like this means when hitting potholes or even jumps, most of the impacts gets absorbed directly by the frame. Only the leftover force makes it up to the shock tower. This helps protect the shock tower and the top of the shocks from cracking or failing over time, especially during heavy duty or long-term use. Now comes to the back. Solid axle 4 links longitudinally and one track bar or panhard bar to control the axle movements. Reinforced shock mount and bump stop mounted on the frames for heavy body. And we can see the e-brake actuator at the inner side. The axle housing also has 2 reinforcement pieces welded on the underside. And this utility axle can be found all over the GWM. The Power or GWM Cannon Tank 300 and all Middle East, Russia, Central Asia and Southeast Asia Tank 500 all comes with this axle, except only the 500 has reinforcement pieces. But for Australia and South Africa Tank 500 HEVs and all plug-in hybrid version of Tank 400, 500 and Cannon Alpha are getting the heavy-duty rear axle, which have a higher axle load of 2.5 ton. We'll get to more details in the future video about the Tank 400 Hy-4T, which is coming soon. So don't forget to hit the subscribe and like button, which will help me to produce more interesting videos like this one. The V6 version of Tank 500 weighs around 2.5 ton, 2565 kilos in specific, and the GWM labeled as 3090 kilos. But after my little research, the Russia spec HEV hybrid using the same chassis and axles have a GWM of 3,205 kilos. So therefore, the label payload is around 550 kilos. The actual safe payload can be up to 650 kilos. And I have to mention that the roof load is relatively low, only 50 kilos. Next, come to the engine bay, V6 codenamed 6Z30. A 3-liter 60-degree angle twin VGT turbo V6 petrol, available in China, Russia, Central Asia, and Middle East. Sorry, right-hand drive countries. Heated intake and dual water-cooled intercoolers are at the top. More close to the turbos brings more efficient, but changing spark plugs will become a mega project, not that convenient. It employs a closed-stack design, under square long-stroke cylinder, cast iron cylinder liners with relatively low output numbers, 265 kilowatts and 500 Nm. Makes it a pretty reliable 6 cylinders for these days. My own one has reached 60 kilometers with zero issue. The 48-volt alternator, located approximately a bit above the height of crankshaft, not overly low but not that high as well. And it's 48-volt mild hybrid, so it's a belt start generator. Most cases, the alternator drives the engine to start. Only in extreme conditions such as super cold or 48-volt battery failed, there's a 12-volt starter motor to drive the engine start, located at the right rear of the engine. At the back of the engine, we can see a high-position vent tube, but only for the transmission. You need to modify the factory transfer case and both differential vents if you frequently play with mud and deep water. Mention the transmission, 750 meters of torque capacity, and there's a separate oil cooler at the lower side of the front wheel. That's a dedicated transmission cooler. So don't put light bars or other stuff at front of it. Once you are in the dunes and the trans got overheated, you're done. Back to the bay, fuses box at the left side, and this Tank 500 have opted vicious fan, but with an electronically controlled clutch. So high RPM, super hot condition at high altitude up to 3,000 meters high. The clutch will engage full time automatically. The ECU computer etc. are at the right section and push backwards. From a side view, GWM has really tried their best to put all electronics as high and as backwards as possible, avoiding soaking water. Air filters. A big filter box enclosed by 5 screws. Maybe for better sealing, you should carry a screwdriver when you go for a long trip. The air intake tube was lengthened close to the end of A-pillar, similar to Land Cruisers, optimized for water crossing. So when you get into the water and crossing rivers, push the bow wave, even the water depth is deeper than the labeled 800 mil, the engine can still breathe cold air. And at the end, a big thumbs up to Windshield's fluid tank. Around 4-liter capacity, no need to frequently add glass water. But the thumbs down for the brake pad come with the factory, worn out in mountain areas by just 10,000 Ks. Needs changing for better ones. Next category, we inspect the suspension travel. As we all know, the longer the suspension travel, 4 wheels of the vehicle will more stay contact to the ground, which thereby provides more traction. And when crossing the same obstacle, vehicle with longer travel will also keep the cabin more leveled and less able to roll over. We can have an accurate measure with CTI, Corner Travel Index. Learn that from Kai. Salute to Tinkerer's Adventure. 2 wheels on a diagonal line simultaneously climbing a ramp. Measure the travel when the other 2 are marginally contact with the ground. And under the unloaded factory weight distribution, Tank 500 front suspension compressed 30 mil, drooped 50, and rear suspension flex out 360 mm, with up travel 135 and down travel 195. In total 410 mil. But be careful, this is the articulation numbers. For high-speed desert running, the wheel travel that comes with the factory is 221 mil at the front and 235 at the back, a bit longer than the old Prado FJ platform and a little shorter than the Bronco Sasquatch factory travel. After travel, we come to 4-wheel drive system. The Tank 500 shares the same transfer case from Borg-Warner with Canon Alpha and Tank 700, but the latter has a reinforced variant. A set of multi-clutch pads provides 4 auto, one sleep lock to provide true center locking 4-wheel drive, and planetary gear for low gearing. GWM marketed as 4A plus M-Lock, and Ford calls it High Lock, which are essentially the same thing. It provides different terrain modes for driver to select, which a suitable mode will help you to get over obstacle with more ease. It controls diff locks, transfer case, traction control system, stability control, throttle response, transmission gear shifts, etc. There are 4 modes using the multi-plate clutch: Eco, Normal, Sport, and Snow. The Eco mode will be in 2-wheel drive for most of the time, and when the computer senses some spin, it will engage all-wheel drive. Normal mode is 4 auto all the time. Sport and Snow are more likely full-time like all-wheel drive. ESC are all the time activated across these 4 modes. And all proper off-road modes automatically locked up the center differential through the sleep lock. For high, sand, and mud, automatically disabled ESC as well. GWM's strategy is very similar to Toyota and Land Rover, which is when you're going through any obstacle, you should lock up your center differential, so the clutch won't get overheat. And in these 3 modes, 4 high will hold the gear longer than normal mode, and sand mud will hold gear even longer than 4 high. Switching to 4 low, there are only 2 modes to select, which is 4 low as it is, and the rock mode. Finishing the briefing, Let's take a look at different traction control strategies of different modes: 4 high, sand, mud, and 4 low. In 4 high, traction control seems a bit unresponsive, and traction control intervention is not that hard enough. Sand and mud has nearly zero traction control, allowing all wheel spin for soft, loose surfaces. For those who want a traditional 4-wheel drive experience, those 2 modes are for you. While in 4 low, it becomes more responsive and is sufficient to overcome the obstacle. Although it still takes half a second to think, but it's usable compared to 4 high. In rock mode, I observed that front axle traction control is still working when rear diff lock is engaged, and after trying other modes, it proves that in all modes, when rear diff lock engaged, front axle traction control is always working, which is handy for those guys didn't opt the front locker. And for the drivetrain, final drive ratio is 3.9 and the crawl ratio is 54.5. A decent number for non-rock crawl oriented vehicles, provides a huge amount of wheel and torque. Lastly, the functionalities starts with diff locks. Nearly all GWM trucks and SUVs are using e-lockers from Eaton, similar to Ford. Super fast lockout, no flash indicator, no hesitates. Press the button, snap, engaged. Both front and rear are lightning fast. The engagement requires speed less than 5 km/h, and when speed exceeds 40 km to protect the CV, all diff locks will automatically disengage. Note that only in rock mode the rear diff lock operated without this speed limitation, stays locked in whatever the speed. But remember, only the rear diff lock, not the front. The rear locker can kick in any modes, even in road driving modes like normal or eco. Pressing the button and rear locker locks up. And the front one can only be locked up once in 4 low and rear diff locked. However, in a high-low shifting process, none of the lockers will remain locked. 4 high switch to 4 low, rear locker automatically unlocks. 4 low twin locked switch to 4 high, boom, all unlocks. The front auto unlock is understandable, but they should keep the rear stay locked. A bit inconvenient. Then is the camera. GWM's camera has always been high-res and crystal clear, but no washers on any of the 4 corners. You must get off the car and clean all of them. And even more, the most complaints come from display modes. Offroad mode and on-road modes have no difference. User can only choose between front camera or wheel side cameras. However, when we engage off-road cruise control, front camera with wheel side views on the same screen at once. I was so confused why this layout cannot synchronize to all other off-road modes. All information can be seen on a single screen with no switching camera needed. And tank turn is a super handy feature once you put it in suitable environments. This scene shows the difference clearly. Similar to Land Cruiser's turn assist, brake applied to inner rear wheel, but this function can only turn on after activate off-road cruise control. And if encounters super tight turns, even the tank turn cannot get through in one round. Once you shift to reverse, the cruise control and tank turn both turn off, no standby mode. That means only the first round the tank turn will work. Later, you need to reactivate off-road cruise and tank turn, or you just do multi-point turns. Luckily, the wheelbase 2850mm is relatively short, good on turning radius. But the tank turn function set like this tends to be a bit useless. Hill descent control is very smooth, gradually decrease the speed instead of hard braking. A hard brake can cause accidents in wet downhill conditions, and HDC also works for 4 low, and stayed on when speed is below 60 km, a pretty nice automatic feature for complex overlanding scenarios. And finally, the electronic handbrake. For some extreme environments like high plateau uninhabited region overlanding, crossing half-frozen rivers dozens of times each day, it's better to lose the handbrake when night is coming, or the brake pads may froze up with disc next day morning. E-brake can lose up just like traditional handbrakes. There's one sentence on the handbook, but the description is too brief. After multiple attempts, I find out the most reliable way is stay on brake pedal, keep pressing the e-brake button and turn the engine off. Keep pressing the e-brake button, find the transmission emergency neutral, pull up the rope, turn it anti-clockwise 90 degrees. Hold it for 50 seconds and can see the park light got off on the gear selector. Leave the e-brake button first, then leave brake pedal. You turn off e-brake after engine off. We can saw that the vehicle rushed down the hill. In this condition, the vehicle can be towed, but steering wheel will be soon locked up. For this drawback, you need to physically remove the locking mechanism. To conclude, impressive power and relatively high crawl ratio makes it hold itself a place, even against newer hybrid off-roaders, and even more capable than its naturally aspirated competitors. While excellent road comfort and luxury interior makes it more like a Lexus GX equivalent, and a lot of handy off-road features to make it easier for newcomers to enjoy off-roading adventure. Data collection like these takes me a lot of effort. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave a comment. It's the best way to support the channel. We'll catch you next time.